Okay, just want to say, absolutely loved yesterday's stream, so we're back again straight away. Hello Jody, hello Lance, might just be us two today, or tonight rather, where we are now. But yeah, just absolutely brutal yesterday. He's pleading innocent on this as well. In this one, we're going to be looking at a witness testimony, and we're also going to listen to the officer that walked into the house that we heard about yesterday when the officer walked in and just found everything. But yeah, let's go, guys. Nice one. Thank you very much. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Please like the video, subscribe if you're new, and don't forget, if you want to write to inmates like I do, then use the service I use. It's called Jmail. It's fast and it's secure, and it means you don't have to use your home address. The link to that is in the description. It's literally the service I use. The reason why I use it is because I get to keep my address private, and I also get the physical letters to my house as well. You don't give it to the inmates at all. So yeah, get it out, check it, have a look. Yeah, right, let's go, guys. Let's go.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Robin White.
Are you related to Joel Guy Sr.?
Yes, he's my brother.
And is the defendant your nephew?
Yes.
And did you know Lisa Guy also?
Yes, she was like my sister.
All right. I want to direct your attention to the time period around Thanksgiving, just before Thanksgiving of 2016, and ask you if your brother made any statements to you about his future plans regarding the support of his son, Joel Michael.
Yes. My brother had stated to me that he was retiring and moving up, and he had cut his son off from any money, anything. He was tired of keeping him up. And Lisa was fixing to move in the family home, and Lisa was fixing to cut him off when come Christmas when he was supposed to come in. But he came in for Thanksgiving instead.
Okay. Thank you. Pass the witness.
Just very briefly, so I understand your testimony is as to your brother. He stated that he had already cut off his son. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And as to your sister-in-law, she told you she was planning to cut him off at Christmas. Is that right?
Yes.
And the conversations that you had, let me ask this, the conversation you had with your brother, was your nephew part of that conversation?
No, he was not there.
Okay. The conversation you had with your sister-in-law, was your nephew party to that conversation?
Yes. It was all about cutting him off. Yes.
Okay. That was a bad question. Let me ask again. When you talked to your sister-in-law about your nephew, did your nephew hear that conversation while it was going on?
No, he wasn't there.
Okay. That's all I was asking. Thank you. One second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Just to clarify, as to Ms. Guy, your sister-in-law, did you have a conversation with her yourself, or did your brother tell you about your sister-in-law's plan?
No, I talked to her about it too.
Okay. And a conversation with her is when she said she was planning to cut him off at Thanksgiving?
Yes.
I mean at Christmas?
At Christmas, yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Angela Crane. State your name for the record, please.
Angela Crane.
You're going to have to speak up into the microphone.
Sorry, Angela Crane.
Okay, can you pull the microphone close to your... And are you Joel Guy Sr.'s daughter?
Yes.
And you're the defendant's half-sister?
Yes.
And did you have any conversations shortly before the Thanksgiving holiday, shortly before their deaths, about your father's intention to stop providing support for your brother?
Yes.
And what did he say?
He said that Joe Michael was going to be cut off and going to have to stand on his own 2 feet.
Okay. Did you have any conversations with Lisa Guy about this?
Yes.
And what were those? What did she say to you?
She agreed. It was all in the same conversation with Dad and Lisa.
Okay. And this happened close in time to their deaths. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Pass the witness.
Very briefly, Ms. Crane, Do you recall when this conversation happened?
Probably October, around the middle, one of my trips back home to Tennessee.
Okay. And I understood you to say this was a single conversation with the two of them.
It's been an ongoing family conversation and knowledge. I know Dad had cut Joel Michael off probably years before, and the only reason why Lisa ever had a job, because she didn't need to work, was to solely take her check and provide it to Joel Michael, so he didn't need to work.
Okay. The conversation that you had, you said you thought was in October.
Yes.
And in which you repeated statements from both Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy. I'm just trying to understand, is that a time when there was the three of you talking about it together, or did you talk about it with one and then with the other?
Three of us together.
Okay. And did they indicate in those conversations, or in that conversation, the time when Joel Guy Jr. would be cut off?
After they retired and moved back to Sigornsville, moved home.
Okay. And so, obvious question, but at the time you had the conversation in October with Mr. Guy Sr. and Ms. Guy, Joel Guy Jr. was not present for that conversation.
Correct.
That's all, Your Honor.
Anything else for this witness?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. You may sit down.
Renee Charles?
Imagine what it's like being like the guy's sister, how conflicting that must be. Like, do you reckon you fully hate your brother and you want him to die? Or do you reckon, like, I don't know. Do you reckon, like, you want your sibling to be okay? Where do you stand on that if your sibling kills your parents? Anyway, let's keep going.
State your name for the record.
Another bright, fluffy channel on Bizarre Bazaar. Bright, fluffy questions.
Renee Charles.
Are you Joel Guy Sr.'s sister?
Yes, ma'am.
And shortly before his death, did he make any statements to you about his intention to stop, for him and his wife to stop supporting your nephew, the defendant?
Yes, the week before.
Okay. And can you tell the judge what he said?
He said that Joel Michael was coming in Christmas because they wasn't going to do anything for Thanksgiving. He wasn't coming in for Thanksgiving. And they were going to talk to him then about him having to get a job and pay the bills and stuff down there because they were retiring and moving to Scornsville and they wasn't going to have any income.
Was Lisa there when that happened?
Yes.
Okay. Did she make any statements to you about it?
She said she was behind Mike.
Okay.
They were going to tell him.
Thank you. Ask the witness.
Briefly, Ms. Charles, just, and you may have said this, when did this conversation happen?
The week before.
Okay, the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, they came up to Sigornsville to bring some stuff.
Okay, and when they were in Sigornsville, in that conversation, it was the three of you having the conversation?
Yes.
And you said that Mr. Guy Sr. Said that they were going to cut him off.
Yes.
At Christmas, is that right?
They were going to talk to him at Christmas because he wasn't coming in for Thanksgiving.
Okay. So Mr. Guy did not actually say at what point the cutting off would happen, just when the conversation would happen.
Right.
And Ms. Guy was there during the conversation also?
Yes.
And what is it what did she say specifically about her?
She said she was behind it, that she was going to talk to him. They were both going to talk to him.
Okay. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. You may sit down.
Michelle Dennison.
Joel, you're 27 years of age. You had everything all your life. You need to get a job. No. No.
State your name for the record, please.
Michelle Tyler.
And I'm sorry I've been calling you Dennison, but that's... are you Joel Sr.'s daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
And the defendant's half-sister?
Yes, ma'am.
In the time shortly before their deaths in October, November of 2016, did your father make any statements to you about his intention for him and Lisa to stop providing financial support for the defendant?
Yes, ma'am. On October the 28th, my youngest's birthday, Lisa and Dad did. On Thanksgiving, Dad did.
Okay, and let's talk about the October statement first. Tell us what Lisa said.
They had both said, but Lisa said that Joel Michael was going to have to find a job because they only had a certain amount of money. The retirement they had taken out his pension, and I'm not sure if that's the name of it, but they only had a certain amount to live on, and they would not be able to afford Joel Michael or paying for his apartment.
Okay,
things like that.
And on Thanksgiving, what did your dad say to you?
You could. There was a little bit of tension, and so when everyone was inside, and it was just.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It was just me and Dad and myself. That was bad grammar. It was just me and Dad. We were out on the porch, and he said that Lisa hadn't told Joel Michael, and that you could feel like that was what was causing the little bit of tension inside the house. That you could feel the tension.
Okay.
It was a little bit.
Did he say anything specifically about them withdrawing financial support from your brother?
That's what he said. He had told Joel Michael about they had told Joel Michael about him having to get a job or being cut off, but he didn't. I can't remember his correct verbiage, but it wasn't cut off. It's that they couldn't afford to support him any longer.
Okay. Thank you. Pass the witness.
Ms. Tyler, just a few questions to make sure I understand. As to the conversation at Thanksgiving time, you said you and your father were on the porch. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you said your father told you that Ms. Guy had talked to Joel Guy Jr. About stopping funding. Is that right?
That they had talked to Joel Guy Jr.
Okay, so that both Joel Guy Sr. said that he and Ms. Guy had talked to Joel Guy Jr.
That they had made on October the 28th. They had already told him he needed to be looking for a job, and then on Thanksgiving they had, I guess, confirmed it or solidified it.
Okay.
Is solidified a word?
So there's. I'm sorry, I don't mean to ask the same thing again. There's you and your father on the porch. He's telling you about another conversation between him and Ms. Guy and Joel Guy Jr. Is that right?
Yes, between him, all three of them.
Okay. That conversation between the three of them, you were not present for that conversation?
No, sir.
Okay. And the conversation between you and your father, it was just the two of you on the porch. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's all, Your Honor.
Anything else for this witness?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. You may sit down.
Jennifer Whited. State your name for the record.
Jennifer Whited
Where are you employed?
at Jacobs.
What was your relationship with Lisa Guy?
I was Lisa's supervisor.
When did she tell you she was, when did she turn in her notice or let you know she was going to stop working?
She gave me a written notice on November 21st, 2016,
Okay. When was her last day of work?
December 2nd.
Okay. Did she make any statements to you? Did you all talk about personal matters to some degree?
We did.
Okay. Did she make any statements to you regarding her intention, her future intention to stop supporting her son?
She did make mention of that. She talked about her and her husband both retiring and moving to the family home and not being able to continue to support.
Okay. And do you know when that conversation took place?
Probably October and November.
Okay.
I mean, we talked just about every day. I made a point to go around and talk to all of my employees, and so we talked.
So you were aware she was going to retire before she turned in her written notice?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Whited, as I understand your testimony, you had conversations with Ms. Lisa Guy. She was going to retire and would not be able to continue to support her son. Is that right?
Yes, we did, and have conversations about her intentions of no longer supporting.
Okay. In those conversations, did she indicate to you at what point that support, at what point it was her intention for that support to stop?
She did not say a specific date, but she did say, with them retiring, that she could no longer support him.
Okay. An obvious question, but in the conversation or conversations that you had with Ms. Guy, Joel Guy Jr. Was not present during those conversations?
No, he was not.
And so, thank you, Your Honor.
Anything else with this witness, Joe? No, Your Honor. Thank you, ma'am. You may sit down. Any other witnesses on this issue?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Harwell, do you have objections to what we have heard?
Yes, Your Honor, and I think there's two actually very distinct legal issues. I'll try to address both of them. The first relates to the testimony that Lisa Guy or Joel Guy Sr. Had told family members that it was their intention to cut off Joel Guy Jr. at Christmas or sometime in the future. The basis of our argument on those is those may arguably fall under 803.3, a hearsay exception for state of mind covering intention. The problem on those, where it falls short, is relevance. I'm surprised sometimes how often issues recur, but as I was thinking about this is the exact same legal situation that Your Honor and I confronted in Brandon Donaldson. The issue is, if that is their intention and that is what they're telling other people, that's still not relevant absent any indication that Mr. Guy Jr. overheard that conversation, was aware that that conversation happened. Whether or not Lisa Guy had an intention in her head to cut her son off at Christmas doesn't make anything more likely in the case unless Mr. Guy, the defendant, knew that was her intention. So yes, maybe that is 803.3 material, but absent evidence that the defendant knew of it, it hasn't been linked up. So that's the argument as to those set of statements. The other statement that I think is a different legal issue is what Ms. Tyler testified to, which is that when at a time they were on the porch, that her father told her that a conversation had already happened, that Ms. Guy had talked to the defendant and told him that he had been or was about to be cut off. And that one, I think, that clearly is a hearsay problem, because now we're not talking about statement of state of mind and of intention. This is Joel Guy Sr. Making a statement to his daughter out of court that the state would be offering for its truth. The state would be offering that to prove that, in fact, Lisa Guy talked to Joel Guy Jr. And told him that he was being cut off. So that seems to me that is just straightforward hearsay, not within an exception, and should be precluded for that reason.
Thank you, sir. General, before
Lance said an interesting thing there. I missed that if it was. Did I hear earlier that the mother worked her job for the sole reason of supporting her son? Is that true? Did anyone else hear that? That's mental. Hello, Forrest. Thanks for joining us, mate. Hello.
I'll let you argue. I want to address the first objection as to relevance. Assuming these are proper under 803.3, I do think that they would be relevant toward a possible motive on the defendant's part to be the person who committed these crimes. The notebook that the state intends to introduce indicated some money component, somebody who's an adult being supported by the parents and being cut off from that support could be a potential motive. So I do think that there is relevance if the state can, in fact, establish that, even I don't think we have to know the defendant actually heard those conversations, that there was an intent that they were going to pretty soon move out of that home and live off their retirement in Sir Goinsville. I think it's all close enough in time to make that relevant. We did hear the testimony from Ms. Tyler, and I think Ms. White that had already happened. And so even though I don't think that's going to be admissible, I do think that plays into motive. Now to the second part, hearsay, I think most of what I heard was proper 803.3 declaring the declarant's future intention to cut him off, but there were a couple that I noted I don't think would fall. In general, I will hear your argument on this if you disagree with me, but Ms. White said that Mr. Guy said he was retiring and had already cut his son off.
I will concede that she should not say that.
Yeah. Is she still in here, Ms. Robin White? Ms. White, okay, so this is a very sort of tricky legal issue. Now, what somebody says, and Ms. Tyler, I want you to listen to this too, what somebody says outside of the courtroom is what we call hearsay, and normally that is not allowed to be presented to the jury, but there's some exceptions to that. And one of those exceptions is when somebody declares their intent to do something. Like if I said to Mr. Sanchez, I'm going to go to the mall and watch a movie tonight, then he could come to court and say, Judge Sword told me that day he was going to a movie tonight, because that is an exception to hearsay. You're talking about somebody's future intention. But if I said, hey, Mr. Sanchez, I went to the movies last night, he couldn't say that, because that is a statement of something that had happened in the past, and there's a question on the reliability of that. So, Ms. White, when you say Mr. Guy told you that he had already cut the defendant off, you can't say that in court. That's inadmissible because it's something that's already happened in the past. But then when you say that Lisa Guy said that they were fixing to move into the family home and she was fixing to cut him off too, that's okay, because that's her statement of something that's going to happen, what she's going to do in the future, her intent, her plan of what she's going to do. That stuff's okay. And Ms. Tyler, the same thing with you. You had said that at Thanksgiving when you were out there with your dad, he said that they had already had the conversation with him. That's a past event, so you cannot talk about that. But when you talked about the October 28th conversation with your mom, that he's going to have to find another place, and because they're going to stop supporting him, that's okay as well too. So General, I take it you concede on that as well. Okay, so that's going to be the court's ruling. I think it was just those two that I heard that were past events. Everything else I think was a future plan of the declarant, and so that'll be my ruling. I'm going to overrule the first objection on relevance, and I'm going to overrule it except for those two exceptions as noted.
Right, okay. I'm going to swap the video around. The next one I am very eager for. The next one is the cop who entered into the house and found everything. What's it called? The welfare check. Guys, don't forget, if you want to write to inmates like me, use the service I use. It's called Gmail. It's fast and it's secure. It means you don't have to use your home address. It means you get physical copies to your house and you don't have to give your address to anybody. Use Gmail. Its link is in the description. Go check out the website. Also, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a channel member as well. Link is in the chat for that. Nice one, guys. Let's go.
Tell us your name, sir.
Stephen Ballard.
And by whom are you employed?
Knox County Sheriff's Office.
In what capacity?
I work in the Major Crimes Unit.
I want to talk about the year 2016. Were you still employed in that year, sir?
Yes, sir.
And what was your assignment on November the 28th, 2016?
I was a patrol canine officer.
In what region of Knox County were you charged with patrolling?
West Knoxville.
And does that include Golden View Lane?
Yes, sir.
And I want to ask you about that day, sir. Did you have cause to respond to 11434 Golden View Lane here in Knox County?
Yes, sir.
And what was the basis of you responding to that residence?
It was to do a welfare check on Lisa Guy.
Okay. And did you in fact go to that residence?
Yes, sir.
And if you would, tell the members of the jury what you did to accomplish your welfare check once you got to the residence.
The first initial response, I pulled up to the residence, I exited my vehicle, I went to the front door, knocked on the front door, rung the doorbell, didn't get a response. So I went to the, if you're facing the house, I went to the left side of the house. There was a small white 4-foot fence around the backyard. I noticed a dog house in the backyard. I whistled for the dog. Didn't get any response. Looked down, noticed that the gate was locked. At that point, I come back around to the front door of the home, and I knock and ring the doorbell again.
Okay. Did you have cause to notice whether or not the residence was for sale at that time?
There was a for sale sign in the front yard.
And were there vehicles physically in the driveway of the residence?
Yes, sir.
And in the course of your welfare check, did you run those vehicle tags, sir?
I could have possibly run those on my computer. Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you recall whether or not you did that day?
I don't recall.
Okay. So when you go to the door, sir, are you looking in the door or are you just knocking and ringing the doorbell?
No, sir. I'm just knocking and ringing the doorbell. It had been an officer safety issue to be peering in.
And when you say an officer safety issue, what are you talking about, sir?
Typically, if I go out to a residence, I don't put my face up to the window to be able to see inside. It's an officer safety issue.
And how long on the initial response did you spend at 11434 Golden View Lane?
That, Jody, that is one of the things that really bothers me a lot with that poor dog. Also, this guy is just like full-blown real-life horror movie, isn't it? Just like unbelievable. You must just be walking thinking anything could happen at any point. You could die at any point. Mental.
I'll say approximately 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Captain Dodd, I'm going to approach and show you what's been pre-marked as States Exhibit 10 for identification. Can you identify that, sir?
Yes, sir. That's 11434 Golden View.
Does that accurately reflect the residence that you responded to on November 28, 2016?
Yes, sir.
You want to read us some evidence?
Any objection? Exhibit 10.
So after your initial response, did you have cause to return to that residence?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me back up a little. Where did you go after your first response, after you left the residence?
I went about my daily duties, and I believe that I had actually pulled into a parking lot off a level road before I initially went back out for the second time.
Okay, and do you recall the lapse of time between the first visit and the second?
I'll say approximately an hour to 2 hours.
Okay, and what was the cause to go back a second time?
I had spoke with Detective McCord over the phone. We were discussing a robbery that had taken place on Level Road. I believe it was, the business was the Subway. We briefly spoke about that. Detective McCord asked me what I had found when I went out to the guy residence. I explained to him that the inside foyer light was on. There were vehicles in the driveway, but I got no response at the door. At that point, Detective McCord told me that he had a little more information and asked if I would go back out to the residence with him.
Okay, and did you in fact go back with Detective McCord?
Yes, sir.
And were any other patrol officers accompanying the two of you?
Yes, sir.
And who were they, sir?
That would have been Jarrett Graves, and I believe it was Sergeant Benjamin Gresham at the time.
Okay, and upon the second arrival, what, if anything, you guys knew differently than you did in the first welfare check?
So the second time when we arrived there, the neighbor, if you're facing the guy residence, the neighbor to the left, her garage door was open. We actually went over, spoke with her briefly just to see if she could tell us when the last time was that she had seen them. Then we go across the street and speak with the neighbors across the street from the guy residence.
Is this something that you would do on any sort of welfare check when you're investigating further?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and after you get back to the physical residence, do you knock on the door and ring the doorbell again.
Excuse me, Detective Allen, I don't mean to interrupt. So I know we've tried 100 times cases in here, but there's a jury right behind you, and you're kind of standing in front of her, and I don't want her to miss what things. I'm sorry, I know it's just a habit, but it's a little bit different.
I'll try to stay confined to the podium if I could.
Thank you.
What was the question again, sir?
When you returned to the residence after you canvassed the neighborhood, if you will, what did you go to the back of the residence at any point?
I believe at that point, Sergeant Gresham was on the front porch, and he had pointed out on inside the residence some groceries. You could see, if you put your face up to the actual window, you could see groceries sitting inside in the foyer. So myself, Detective McCord, we go around the left side of the house. If you're facing the front of the house, we climb the fence, get into the backyard. We go up onto the porch area. As soon as you get up in front of the door, we noticed the doorknob, one of the doorknobs was missing, and Detective McCord had knelt down to look through that doorknob.
Okay. When you say a doorknob's missing, could you physically see into the residence?
Through the knob, through the doorknob hole, yes.
So where the knob should be?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And based on that, did you have cause to investigate further?
Yes, sir.
And where do you go after the back of the residence? Where do you go next, sir?
So when we start walking back around, there's a back door to the garage that has a doggy door. I had attempted to see if that door was unlocked, and it was not. So then we go back around to the fence where we had crossed, and we climb back over the fence at that point.
Okay. And once you're back in the driveway after being in the backyard, what do you do, sir?
At some point, the garage door opens and we enter the residence.
Okay. And when you say the garage door opens, is that as a result of law enforcement opening that garage door?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. It wasn't you physically who did it?
No, sir.
And when you enter the residence, if you would describe to the members of the jury what you were seeing and what was going on upon your initial entry.
So the garage door comes up. Detective McCord is in front of me. I'm behind Detective McCord. The other two officers are behind me. As we enter the garage, you can feel an intense heat coming out of the garage area. We go up to the interior garage door, and if you're facing in the garage, the interior garage door would have been to our right. Detective McCord announces Knox County Sheriff's Office, and at that point, he pushes the interior door open. When the interior door comes open, we step into the residence. There's some chemicals setting in the floor as soon as you step in, and then we begin to clear the residence.
Okay, and when you're clearing a residence, describe to the members of the jury what you're trying to achieve, sir.
We're trying to achieve to see if Mr. and Mrs. Guy are okay due to the fact they didn't come to the door. You've got groceries sitting in the floor, and the back doorknob's obviously missing at that point. We continue to go through the residence. As we go through the garage door, you see the chemicals setting in the floor. There's like a short, long hallway to the right, the best I recall. And if you're looking down that hallway, you see a dining room table toward the front of the residence. I can see something at that point lying on the dining room table. We continue through, come down the foyer where the groceries are lying in the floor. I look to my right, I see long guns lying out on the dining room table. At that point, we turn to start up the stairway.
Let me ask you, sir, at this point, do you have your service weapon drawn?
Yes, sir.
And do the other officers with you have their service weapons drawn?
I know Detective McCord did. The other two officers were behind me at that point.
And in
just imagine what's going through your head at that point. Like, it's just sheer tension. Like, I don't know what other people's lives have been like, but I can say that I probably haven't felt that tension in my life, and I don't think most people do feel that tension in their lives. Sheer horror film.
In terms of what you're perceiving with your senses, can you smell chemicals?
I actually feel a tingling on my forehead from the time that I entered the home. As we continue on and start up the steps, the heat is more intense. It seems to be getting hotter.
Okay. And if you would, describe what, if anything, you observed in the course of going up the steps.
There again, the groceries were in the floor. I noticed the weapons lying out on the dining room table. We start up the steps. We get to a landing where there's a small, like, child gate. Detective McCord sees some blood that he believes to be on the wall at that point. He asks if anyone had gloves on them, and I did have a pair of gloves in my BDU pockets. I pulled those gloves out to put them on so that we could open that gate and go on up to the landing upstairs.
Okay, and to the best of your recollection, if you could describe the layout of the upstairs once you make it to the second floor.
So when you hit the landing, there's a room immediately to your right that turns, it turns back kind of behind you. Then there was a room on an angle to my right and another room on an angle to my left with a long hallway.
Okay, and in terms of what you believe to be blood, do you see anything once you get to the top of the stairs?
Yes, sir. When I get to the top of the steps, I believed it to be a human hand or a hand lying at the very end of the hallway.
Okay. And did you go a different way or have cause to go a different way than Detective McCord did initially when you're clearing the residence?
Yes, sir. Detective McCord broke off immediately to the right and kind of behind where I was, and I continued down the hallway.
Okay. And where you think you see hands, do you eventually make it to that room, sir?
Yes, sir.
And do you clear that room?
Yes, sir. Partially, yes, sir.
And if you would, describe what you see in that room.
I see a human hand. It was lying in an upright position with another human hand that was closed fist behind it.
Okay. And after you make those observations, what do you collectively do as the officers who are clearing the residence?
Detective McCord had seen something in one of the other rooms and requested that we back out at that point. And at that point, we worked our way back out of the residence. And I went, if you were facing their residence, I went to the outside, far back right of the residence and held a perimeter till we could get additional officers on scene.
And when you say you held the perimeter, is there any reason why you were continuing to hold the perimeter if you cleared the interior of the residence?
The complete interior of the residence, I don't believe, had been cleared at that point.
Okay, and at any point during the time within the residence at 11434 Golden View, were you alerted as to the presence of a dog anywhere?
Yes, you could hear a dog in one of the rooms faintly barking.
Okay, and where the dog was, is that one of the rooms that you cleared?
No, sir.
Okay. And when you're holding your perimeter back outside, how long do you do that?
How long what, sir?
How long are you holding the perimeter outside?
It seemed like forever. Maybe 15 minutes.
Okay.
10, 15 minutes.
And did you have reason to re-enter the residence that day, sir?
I did not.
Okay. And I want to ask you, sir, are you equipped with a body camera?
Yes, sir.
On this date, November 28, 2016?
Yes, sir.
And have you had a chance to review those videos prior to testifying today?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, if we could, we would ask to publish 3 segments of body camera footage from November 28, 2016.
Yeah, Jackson.
All right, Your Honor.
Exhibit 11. You may publish it later.
I may stop you here just to ask questions, but is there a reason why the portion of the front end of the body camera footage is typically muted?
Is there a difference in what, sir?
Is there a reason why the front end of the body camera footage is muted?
My understanding is when you very first turn the camera on, there's a delay in that.
Tell us what you're doing, sir.
This is me arriving at 11434 Golden View. And at this point, I'm going to approach the front door. rung the doorbell at this point.
Echo 10. Step at this. 1098, code D for the complainant. Campus unit going with K915, I'll take it. Step 1, that's 9 copy. Echo 20, 10-4, thank you.
You spoke about vehicles being present in the driveway. Are those the same vehicles that are present?
Yes, sir. This is where I'm going to the side of the residence to try to check the back.
Echo 12. Gonna have a white Dodge driveway, is there a key holder around? Negative. Echo 12, there may be a Katie Harold. I'll call the alarm company and verify.
What are you doing, sir?
I rung the doorbell again and just waiting to see if I get a response.
Echo 12, there's a correct service separate in front of the house. What do you need for a minute to check? Step 1.
Next, I'd like to publish a portion of the rear door investigative report. Just for clarification, is this your second visit to the residence?
With if that's the video with Detective McCord, we will climb that fence.
So when you say that the doorknob is missing or absent from the rear door, is that depicted in the screen, sir?
Yes, sir. Detective McCord is actually looking through where the doorknob is missing at this point.
Have I missed something? Why is the doorknob missing? Or do we not know that yet? Also, how eerie is this footage? It's just terrifying, isn't it? It's just, you just got a ghostly kind of vibe to it.
Bob Gray at Middlebrook. Lincoln Town car. Here's the deal. They said they purchased a house in Johnson City, so hopefully he'll have information on it.
They're saying Robertsville.
The neighbors.
And the realtor saying Johnson City.
Well, it's relatively close, yeah.
You got what? That doggy door? Yeah, there's supposed to be a hound dog. See, the hound dog's not out, the hound dog's not barking, all their cars are here. Okay. All my lieutenants, they'll have a responsibility.
Come here, one of the bricks back over here when you get over. Oops.
Oh, yeah.
You all right? No, one's good.
I don't have a clue where about it.
You hunt? I'm going back off for a minute.
At this point, is this when you make entry into the residence?
Yes, after this takes place, we do make entry into the residence.
Tell us what kind of round is it?
It appears that Officer Graves had went into one of the guy's vehicle. I couldn't tell what he was doing at that point, but the garage door does open.
There's a dog walking there. Strong shit, don't it?
I hear a dog howling.
Knox County Sheriff's Office!
Damn hammer.
Poor dog.
Police! Police Department, Sheriff's Office!
Guys, we've just passed the pan. We just seen the pan briefly. Did everyone see the pan? We all know what's in that pan, don't we?
Knox County Sheriff's Office!
Sheriff's Office!
Those what you observed through the other side of the front door, sir?
Yes, sir.
I got the gun out here.
You got a gun there?
Yeah, I got several.
Clear. Knox County Sheriff's Office! Back everybody out. That's blood, right? Everybody
Looks like it.
Is that blood or boo-boo?
It looks like blood.
Anybody got gloves on?
Yeah, I'm not close.
Knox County Sheriff's Office! We're here to check your welfare! And then just drop back. Knox County Sheriff's Office!
I've got one, probably one down here too, Jerry. I'm going right, Benji.
What do you mean by got one, sir?
And that's where I noticed the hands at the end of the hallway.
I think somebody in the room that Garrett broke.
This room's clear. Hold up.
Oh my God.
You good, Jeremy?
Back out.
We got clear. Go. I'm going across. Got you.
Clear. Get out.
Clear. This door says where dog is. Knives. Mark blood. Hands. Is that people's hands? Yeah, I think so. That's what I see. That's what it looks like.
That's your fucking hand. Get out now.
I ain't cleared. We not cleared this. There's blood all over it, though. You want to?
Can't. Back out. Everybody back out.
We need to start.
No.
A lot of. What you got here?
Everything else already. You don't want to do everything else. Call game on that. Don't call anybody else. I don't need shit blown up yet. Call game on that. Back out. Out through the garage, same way we came in. Don't touch nothing.
There's the remainder of the video. I'll show you what's in the backyard, sir, holding the residence.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I believe that's all we'd like to close from this portion.
What is he thinking there? What is possibly going through his mind watching that with everyone else in the room? What could he possibly be thinking?
The General Sanchez, the rest of that video is in, correct?
It is in.
Okay.
There's not much more speaking on that.
Thank you.
The events you testified to today, sir, did they occur here in Knox County?
Yes, sir, it did.
Pass witness.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You said that when you first went out, you did not put your face up to the glass. It's an officer safety issue.
Yes, sir.
Is there a fear of what could be on the other side of the glass, or someone see you peering in and react?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there a policy as to that, or is that just training, or?
I don't think there's a policy. I believe that's just training.
Okay. But then I think you indicated one of the officers did do that. Is that right?
Yes, sir, after numerous other officers were on scene.
Okay. And after the door had been knocked on several times,
yes,
the
sir.
doorbell rung.
Yes, sir.
Now, at the back, after you've jumped the fence and Officer McCord's gone up and looked into the hole, he does not tell you anything about what he sees or experiences.
I don't recall.
Okay, it's not on the tape where he says, "Oh, I feel a lot of heat."
Yeah, I don't recall that he told me that.
And he doesn't say anything on the tape about smelling a chemical smell.
I don't recall him telling me that.
In fact, it looks like after he goes to a side window and looks in, does he say the word nothing?
I believe I heard someone say nothing.
Okay. And then when you, was it you who tried the doggy door?
Yes, sir, it was me.
It was locked?
Yes, sir, it was.
But there was no other useful information from the door?
Other than it being locked and no one crawled through it.
Okay. Now, the inside garage door, was that after the big car door opened, the inside door, that was closed, appeared to be closed?
It was pulled to, yes, sir.
Okay. And Detective McCord either pushed it open or opened the, do you know which?
Yeah, I just know he pushed the door open, sir.
Okay. And you only went in the house the one time?
Yes, sir.
And it turned out there was not a suspect or anyone alive in the house?
No, no, sir.
Okay. Now, you said you talked to neighbors and someone saw a light on at 6:30, a bathroom light?
Yes, sir.
1 second, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Just very briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Hofstad asked you that it turns out there was no suspects in the house. Let me ask you, back on November 28th, 2016, did you know whether or not anyone was in the rooms that you hadn't cleared?
No, sir, I had no idea.
Anything else, Mr. Hofstad? Thank you, Detective. You may step down. Next witness.
Now we call Sandy Campbell.
Okay, guys. Jody, I think that is obviously to protect the crime scene. I think that's something I could say. Fear for their own lives and also protecting the crime scene, because they don't have a clue who or what is in that house, do they? But it is tragic, but it's also understandable at the same time. Yeah, that was harrowing again, wasn't it? This is a great trial to be watching because it's, like Michael said, it's got all the pictures and videos, hasn't it? It's got all the pictures and videos, and keep cutting back to this guy who's just like that, like, ugh, just some like weird, crazy looking guy, just never really expressing any emotion. Yeah, the dog had been starving as well, just poor thing, poor thing. Guys, intense, absolutely intense. Please drop the video a like. Potentially, if you want to help the channel, support the channel, click join member in the comments. And guys, thank you for joining me again. Hope to catch you on the next one. We'll do something maybe tomorrow, maybe next day. Got a big edit on the next Prison Pen Pals tomorrow, but that hopefully is going to be out Sunday. Guys, thank you very much. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Yeah. Guys, take care. Stay